Chapter 30 of Pee-wee Harris Adrift. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by John Brandon. Pee-wee Harris Adrift by Percy Keese Fitzhugh. Chapter 30. Absence makes the island quiet. "It's all right," Townsend sputtered as he crawled ashore. "I was just thinking of something sad. I feel better now. It was one of the finest races I never saw." "It would have been a good race," said Pee-wee, with a frown indicative of withering scorn. "Only they had to go and break it up, just because we moved. Do you call that an argument? We ought to get the silver cup. That's what I think. They could have headed us off, couldn't they? The rule said they had to go around this flag. It didn't say anything about where the flag would be. That's a technicality, anyway. I'm glad we're rid of them." "We seem to be making port," said Townsend. "I don't know just where we are. I think if we were to cut up through these woods. You girls want to go to the Edgemere trolley, I suppose." "That's the idea," said one of them. "Well, then let's see," Townsend ruminated. "I'll take you to the trolley," Pee-wee shouted, as the island gave evidence of an intention to bunk into the east bank of the river, "because I know how to find my way in the woods. Scouts have to know all those things. I can tell by moss and hoptoads and things which is east and west. I'll take you to the trolley. If we should get lost in the woods, I know how to cook bark so you can eat it. Only scouts don't get lost. So do you want me to take you to the trolley?" Brownie was about to whisper his disapproval of this to Townsend, but Townsend cut him short. "Let him do it," he said. "If he stays here, he'll make a hunter's stew. We can put one over on him by cooking supper while he's gone. Safety first. If he goes ashore, they may get lost. If he stays here, we're all lost." "True," said Billy. "Absolutely correct," said Brownie. "That's what you call an argument," said Roly-Poly. "It's a technicality," said Nuts. "Discoverer," said Townsend, "the patrol thinks that you are the proper one to escort our guests to the Edgemere trolley." "Isn't that perfectly lovely?" said one of the girls. "If the woods should wander away while you're in them," said Townsend, "send up a smoke signal, and we'll come and rescue you. Don't hurry back, Discoverer. Remember, these girls come first of all. We'll tie the island to a tree and have a game of mumbly-peg. You'll find us here when you get back." "Well," said Townsend, after he had securely fastened the island to shore by a piece of rope, "let's make hay while the sun shines and get supper. In an hour or so it may be too late. After all our adventures, I feel that another hunter's stew—" "If the island saw another hunter's stew, it would run away," said Brownie. "We've had quite a week of it, eh?" said Billy. "Yes, I don't think I've ever been around so much in a week before," said Townsend. "I feel like a pinwheel." "Or a top," said Brownie. "Something like that," said Townsend. "Well, Joe, what do you think of us?" he added, sprawling on the ground as was his wont. The others began preparations for supper. "How about some spaghetti?" Roly-Poly asked. "Could you eat some spaghetti?" "I might if I were coaxed," said Townsend. "How about you, Joe?" Townsend had made it his religious duty all through that week to consult Kiki Joe about every meal, and indeed about everything that was to be done. He jealously saw to it that Joe had a voice in everything. Not that any of them denied Joe these rights, but Joe felt out of place among these strange boys, and the boys sometimes forgot about him. It was exactly like Pee-wee to drag poor Joe head over heels into scouting and then forget all about him. It was exactly like Townsend Ripley to take the poor little hoodlum quietly in hand and be his friend and sponsor. He treated him always as an equal and as a comrade. What the others forgot, he remembered. He agreed with Joe or disagreed with him, as pals will agree and disagree. He always took him seriously. He allowed Joe to teach him to play craps, and then said he didn't see much fun in it. And such was his magnetic power over poor Joe that Joe said he didn't see any fun in it either, and there was an end of it. So it was with all the wretched hoodlum games and tricks that poor Joe had known. One by one they failed in the test, and he became ashamed of them. It is no wonder that Kiki Joe worshipped this keen, easy-going patrol leader, who seemed to be no leader at all. Even Pee-wee was sacrificed in the good cause, and Townsend made fun of Pee-wee for Kiki Joe's amusement. As they sprawled about the fire that Saturday night, the last night but one of their outlandish vacation, and ate spaghetti from tin platters, the trend of the talk showed somewhat the effects of the week's outing upon the poor little derelict of Barrel Alley. "Seems good sitting here and not eating hunter's stew, doesn't it?" said Townsend in his funny way. "I never realized how much I enjoyed not eating hunter's stew. I shall always love hunter's stew for the pleasure it has given me when I didn't eat it. I suppose the discoverer ought to be getting back pretty soon." "Unless those girls took him to Edgemere," said Brownie. "I don't think they'd do that." "They spoke well of Edgemere," said Townsend. "There's no telling where he'll drift to," said Nuts. "Please don't talk about drifting," said Townsend. "The way I feel about drifting, I don't ever want to look at a snowdrift. I can't even listen to the drift of a person's conversation. How about you, Joe?" "De discoverer's all right," said Joe loyally. "I wouldn't say he's all right," said Townsend, "but when he's wrong, he's at his best." "That's what I think, Joe." "He's always at his best," said Brownie. "Except when he's at his worst," said Townsend, "and then he's best of all. That's logic, as he would say. I wonder what he'll bring back with him. Let's each guess. I guess a carpet sweeper. How about you, Joe?" Joe only smiled, but did not venture a guess. "I guess an alarm clock and a headlight from an automobile," said Brownie. "I guess part of a floor lamp, the shade part," said Billy. I guess," said Nuts. "Let's see, I guess some chicken wire, part of a typewriter machine, and a megaphone." "You're all wrong, and I'm right, as you usually are," said Townsend. "He will bring back." "Let's go in swimming," said Brownie. "Good idea," said Townsend. "Joe, I'm going to teach you to swim." Now, it was right then that Kiki Joe said something that surprised them all, and it was just that little remark which showed the effects of the week's outing upon his simple mind. He had certainly not received any particular training or instruction. He had been, in some measure, a participant, but mostly a bashful and amused witness of his companions' adventures, and a silent listener to their talk. He had heard them all speak of their parents, and of how this or that plan might be approved or disapproved at home. He had heard them discuss whether their parents would probably expect them home on Sunday night or early Monday morning. Perhaps it was not a sense of dutiful obedience, but rather a certain budding pride in the bosom of Kiki Joe, which caused him to make the remark which surprised them. He would let them know that he too had a parent, though no one had thought to speak of his parents. If he could not have clothes like them, at least he could have obligations like them. Perhaps the true spirit of obedience was not in him, but the point is that the poor little wretch had discovered a certain pride within himself, and wished to boast of a restraint which a week previously he would have ignored. He too had someone who was interested in his goings and comings, so he said, "Me mudder says I dasn't go swimmin' widout she leaves me." It was strange how Kiki Joe, who had disregarded his poor mother's wishes on so many occasions, should present her now to his new friends. He did not have any of the things which they had: bicycles, tents, cooking sets, radio sets, but one thing he had as well as they, a mother, and so he used her as they used theirs. He played her as his only card. "Me mudder says I dasn't go swimmin' widout she leaves me." "Good for you, Joe," said Townsend. "I'll see your mother next week and fix it. And you do just what she told you to do till then. You've got the right idea, Joe. and he hit Joe a good rap on the shoulder in his friendly way. End of chapter 30. Recording by John Brandon.